collecting those ways of doing this and compiled them into a glossary. Started doing some visual mapping work as a designer that's really helpful for me to see, what is kind of the relationship between these models, the differences, etc. And it resulted in a lot of work like this, a lot of sort of infographics that were available online. And after this got used by over 10,000 people and in schools, etc., realized that there really was a demand for these things and for more tools. So it became interested in how do I go from something kind of pretty to look at to something that you can use, and started to prototype workshop methodologies. As an educator, I've been teaching in higher ed for about 6 years now, social enterprise, design, business, etc. at various schools. It's really important to me in my practice to create things that people can actually engage with and actually learn from and actually play with to an extent. I grew up with a mom who was a tutor and a first grade teacher, and she would always whip out games to play with her kids, and that was always the best way for them to learn, especially tricky subjects like math. And business models is a great example of something that, to be honest, is kind of not that fun, when you're talking about business models. It's very technical. And so I wanted to know, okay, how can we make that fun? And through those tests and through what you'll see today, we were able to land on a curriculum that really worked for a lot of people. And now it's available as a toolkit in English, Spanish. We have a Russian course as well. And we also have a certificate of this. It's been used to generate almost 12,000 different business models all around the world. It's downloaded and used by practitioners in 75 countries, so it has a real global reach to it, and that's one of the most unique components of the actual method itself. So now actually getting into it, kind of story time over, making time happening. One of the really important things to know about models of impact is really this, which is kind of our theory of what is a business model even. If you ask somebody just off the street or in this space or a co-working space or wherever, they'll probably give you half the answer, which is that blue circle on the right, where a revenue model is a method for a business or an organization to earn sort of consistent income, to make money. And that's certainly true, but what I've found is that the most successful businesses we've worked with, the most successful nonprofits, etc., are the ones that can really strike a balance between both of these things, between that revenue model and that impact model. The impact model being a method for sustainably creating the impact that you want to create. And impact, remember, can be kind of broad. This doesn't have to be social impact. This could be environmental impact. This could be personal impact. It's really up to you. You guys might have seen a lot of sort of business people talking about finding your why or finding your purpose. This kind of lands in that as well. So our theory is that, and what we've seen is that if you can have sustainable revenue and a sustainable sort of goal or purpose, you're going to do all right, and that's a business model. The process itself is 4 stages, and we're going to do each of these today. Learn, where we learn a little bit about business models that are out there that are maybe relevant to you. Invent, where we actually create new ones. Program, where we go sort of from blue sky to planet Earth, really getting into that business planning phase. And then report, where you actually are pitching your idea and trying to get feedback in real time. I mentioned briefly earlier, part of the fun of doing these events is that while we all might have various things that we're starting, etc., we're kind of all starting from scratch today and inventing something totally new together. So with that, let's go ahead and play the Models of Impact game. We're eventually going to move our chairs, but we don't have to worry about it quite yet. And I'm going to be kind of playing the role of Dungeon Master. If any of you have played Dungeons and Dragons, you'll notice there is some die up there. I'll explain a little bit what's going on with that in a bit. I promise I'm not insane.
Do people need to take notes? Do they need any notepads?
No, not really. Yeah. So first with learn, right? So this is where we're trying to think about what kind of models are out there. And obviously, we've captured quite a lot. We're almost at 200 models that we've captured in our glossary now, and we're constantly collecting more. Today I'm going to show you guys about 12, and then we're going to engage with about 40 of them. So we're going to be looking at a lot of things. A lot of these you actually already know. just by being a consumer in the United States and purchasing things. But some of them are going to feel a little bit foreign, and if one comes up that you're not familiar with while you're working with these, I'll be cycling around and be there to help you guys decipher any of them. But just to show a few that are really exciting to me, the first is Homeboy Industries. Has anybody heard of them? Yeah. So they're the largest gang intervention organization in the United States, and they're based actually in Chinatown, close to downtown Los Angeles. And what's really unique about them, they are a nonprofit, but they actually launch and operate several social enterprises, this being one of them, a bakery, but they also have a silkscreen store, a tattoo removal company, etc. And they exclusively employ previously incarcerated or former gang members. So as you know, or as you might know, really hard to get a job with a substantial record. They're making it easier for people and really helping them transition. But from a business standpoint, what's also interesting, a lot of nonprofits, they do rely on grants and donations, et cetera, and they do as well, but they do make a significant amount of their income from creating their own products. So it's a really great example of a social enterprise. And in terms of the model of impact that this is, we would consider this jobs for transitional communities. So their whole model is to employ people that are in transition or in a difficult place. Meathead Movers is another one of my favorite recent examples of an impact model. They're a moving company, so if you're moving, they'll put your stuff in a truck and they'll take it to wherever you're going. And what's cool is they wanted to make some kind of impact with the work that they do. And they thought, okay, well, what do we do well? We move people. And now who could we move things for to make some sort of impact? So what they do is a small percentage of their moves, I don't know the exact amount, they actually reserve to do free moves for victims of domestic abuse and domestic violence. So really kind of powerful message there of playing to your strengths, in this case literally I guess, and doing what you're good at for a community that really needs it. Another model that's really exciting these days is subscription boxes. I'm sure that you guys have seen things like this. A friend of mine has a company called Loot Crate that was just named the fastest growing company in the United States by Inc. So this is still a really, really big category. And basically the gist of it is you subscribe to a box and every month you get some stuff in the mail that has a unique sort of array of products. And what's genius about this model from a retail perspective is a traditional retail store will buy all kinds of things, and sometimes they won't sell them, and that stuff is just sitting in a closet somewhere or in a warehouse. In this case, they know how many subscribers they have for that month, and they make the purchase accordingly. So there's very little waste, and as a result, the margins are pretty good. Tom's Shoes, this is a company that a lot of you guys have probably heard of and think of when you think of social entrepreneurship. They really were one of the first sort of mainstream examples of these kinds of business practices, where they have a one-for-one model in which they give away a product for every product that a consumer buys. And that's really the crucial part of it, is that it's always the same product. So kind of like buy one, get one free, but instead of you getting both, they're giving one of those away. Now this gets some criticism every once in a while. This model has gotten criticism over the years, and they've evolved it to sort of adjust for that reason, which is really great, and they've been a really great model for that. Advertising is another model that many of you are familiar with, probably too much actually, just in our daily lives, seeing ads all over the place. But this is a significant revenue model in which it's quite simple. I have this thing that has some space on it, well, you put your thing on it and you pay me for that, right? That's how advertising works. So it can be internet, television, radio, magazines, newspapers, etc. Listen headphones, this is an example of a model called product for service. And this is one of my favorite models of impact right now. It's a nice evolution of that Tom's one-for-one model, in which they do sort of have a one-for-one aspect, but instead of giving the exact same product to the benefactor, they're giving a service that that benefactor ultimately needs. You might compare that a bit to Meathead Movers, right? But in this case, for every pair of headphones they sell, they actually provide hearing aids to people. So people can hear for the first time, and they do that by partnering with the Starkey Hearing Foundation. So it's also an example of a for-profit, nonprofit partnership to create impact. And what's really nice about that is they're really thinking, okay, what does that end user or community that we want to help need? They don't need fancy headphones, right? They need to be able to hear. And there's something, again, really beautiful about making that connection between music and sound and hearing. It feels very authentic to their cause. Gillette, this is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, King Camp Gillette. A lot of people don't know that he was actually sort of a closeted utopian socialist and a sci-fi author as well. So he wrote a book called World Corporation. That's the one that I really recommend if you want to have a bizarre weekend, where he basically wrote the book in the format of a business plan, and he imagined a world in which the entire population of the United States would live behind the Niagara Falls, and they all would work for World Corporation. And everything they needed would be provided by that corporation, and all energy would be provided by the energy from the actual waterfalls themselves. So none of that has anything to do with razors, but the fact that that was going on in his head makes me kind of appreciate this model in a whole new way. That sort of like level of insanity is kind of interesting to me. And so Gillette, is obviously very well known for creating really the cross-subsidy model, or even a lot of people call it the razor and blades model. And put simply, it's when one thing pays for another thing without the end user knowing it. So in this case, the actual razor itself is quite cheap, but the blades, as you might know, really expensive. Another example of this is with Sony PlayStation or Xbox. Every time they sell one of those consoles or the actual hardware, they're actually losing money. But the games are so marked up that they make that money back. So by creating a product that requires constant buying of other things to make it useful, they find profitability in that way. Kiva is a great example of micro-lending. So micro-lending has become a really significant model of impact in recent history around the idea that sometimes people, either in developing countries or in developed nations, need access to funds that a bank would just consider too little to lend. So think $20, right? And so what they do is they open up that lending process to the rest of the world. You can go to their website, you can lend somebody $20 and you can get paid back. So that's what's known as micro-lending. In-app purchases, has anybody ever done one of these? When you're in your phone, in your app, and you want to kind of upgrade it a little bit? It's really common now. It's a really good way for apps to make money aside from advertising. You see it a lot with recipe apps, actually, where sometimes you'll download a recipe app and you get 10 for free, but if you want to pay $1, you'll get another 20 more. So it's really the modern version of upselling. And then the sharing economy, that's one that we're all familiar with, things like Uber, Lyft, etc. I really like this magazine cover, Strangers Crashed My Car, Ate My Food, and Wore My Pants. Tales from the sharing economy. This is one of the, I would say, most important new business models to hit the market in the last decade. And it's important for two reasons. One, for the revenue model aspect of it, opening up all kinds of opportunities to freelancers, to people that are looking for small gigs kind of regularly that they could never access before. The other, from the impact side of it, is it's promoting a world in which we all own less stuff as well. And not a lot of people talk about that angle of it. A lot of the times it goes to the argument of the 1099, of the freelancer, etc. But really it is promoting this ethos of having less stuff, and that's better for the world, the environment, etc. Freemium is another model that you guys have probably interacted with online, where you can have access to a piece of software and experience for $0, and you get a limited amount of features, or you can pay a little bit more each month to get access to more and more features. This is a really successful sort of software as a service model. And I think this is the last one I'm talking about with you guys, which is the pay what you want model. Did anybody buy this album when it came out in 2006 or 2007? So it's with Radiohead, their In Rainbows album, and it was really revolutionary how they revealed it. Because this was at a time when the music industry was really doing bad with things like piracy, etc. And what they decided is instead of going the traditional route, they were going to create a web page for their new album in which you could pay whatever you want to download it. That could be $0, that could be $100, it's up to you. And the most kind of revolutionary thing about it that they discovered was that they were actually netting more money with this model than they were with the traditional model. Partially because all the money was going directly to the musicians, but also because of creating that culture of sort of trust among your users and appreciation to some extent. They were seeing really great returns from that. So it's actually a model that I use for our Models of Impact toolkit, just inspired by that. So that was the learn phase where we took a look at a bunch of models. I'll show you guys a link where you can download the glossary for all 100 other ones, and I'll keep you in the loop on more as we throw them up there. But what we want to do now is the invent phase, and this is where it really starts to get pretty fun. The reason is because we believe in this method that you really need to rely on serendipity and randomization in the ideation process, especially when you're looking at business models, a topic that can be pretty uncomfortable for a lot of people. Or pretty not sexy to some extent. You tend to go with the model you've heard of or the model that your competitor is using without really thinking about, well, what else is out there, and just taking that time to explore. And so as a result, our process really relies on randomly mashing up various models with various interests that you might have and using that as a starting point to see what might happen. I'm going to actually demo that for you guys right now. So I collected 6 revenue models and 6 impact models from our glossary, which you can see down there. And then these 6 other factors are just things that I'm kind of interested in general. Some of this I was just kind of looking at my desk where I saw like my dog's leash and a lava lamp, etc. But I'm interested in walking the dog and lava lamps, skateboarding, providing access to education, the arts, social enterprise, etc. And how this works, what's kind of fun, so there's 6 on each of these, and so this is a 6-sided die that I have right here. And all that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to roll this 3 times to collect 1 from each of those lists, and then I'm going to have that be a starting point. So number 2, I have lava lamps. Number 6, I have recycle. And number 5, I have e-commerce. So I might think of a business in which I'm selling lava lamps online, but those lava lamps are made out of recyclable materials, right? So that's a really quick version of this, and you can imagine if you do this over and over again with more and more refined factors, you can actually get some really interesting stuff brewing. With you guys, we're going to make it a little bit interesting. We're actually going to be using 20-sided die, so you guys don't have it as easy as I just did. And we're going to be doing 3 rounds of this invention. You'll see it'll get more and more complicated with each round. And so what I did before today is I handpicked 20 impact models and 20 revenue models for you. But what I really need your help with is in determining the 20 other factors. So these are our impact and revenue models. I'm going to show you that for a second, and then I'm going to hide it really quick just to make you frustrated. But what I want to do now is I want to hear from you all, what are 20 other factors that we want to play with? And keep in mind, these are just things that, in this case, right, we're not being overly strategic, we're starting from scratch. These are just things that are interesting to you all. So it doesn't have to be things that are, really, really incredible, right? So I'll start us off with dogs. What's something that somebody's interested in? It can be a technological trend, can be a social cause, can be an everyday thing that you like to do. Completely up to you.
Massage.
Massage, all right. Number 2 is massage. What else?
Nature.
Nature, great. What else?
Fitness.
Fitness. All right.
Shoes.
Shoes. All right, what else?
Quiet.
What was that?
Quiet.
Quiet. Nice.
I have people chiming in from the live stream.
Oh yeah?
Elder care.
Elder care. Hello, live stream. Okay, what else?
Education.
Education, perfect. And I said dogs, so I'm gonna go ahead and say cats, to be fair. What else? What was that? Can you spell that?
Edible.
Edible, so just anything that's edible? Okay, great.
Voter turnout.
Voter turnout, there you go. These are all really great examples of the kinds of things we're looking for.
Recycling.
What was that?
Recycling.
Recycling, yeah. Okay, we need 7 more.
Privacy.
Privacy,
Cooking.
cooking.
Crafts.
What was that?
Crafts.
Crafts. Vacation. What was that?
Gardening.
Gardening. Okay, we need 3 more.
Startups.
Startups. Let's get some controversial things in there.
Listening.
Science.
Global warming.
Global warming. You know what? We're good. We're good. All those were good though. Okay, we've got 20. So this is good. So now what we're going to do is each round escalates, but to start, what I want you guys to do is actually get into groups of 3, and just kind of feel free to kind of move your chairs together so you form a little island. And these are going to be the groups that you work with for the rest of the session. So just whoever's kind of near you, could be groups of 3 or 4, whatever. Perfect.
Well, we're good. Pretty good. Nice to meet you.
Jovita. And your name is?
Brittany.
Good.
Spelled B-R-E.
I put mine in the middle so it's good.
Okay, I'm giving each group 1 20-sided die. This will come in handy too. So here's what we're going to do for round 1. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be rolling 1 item from each of these lists. And my role is to actually roll for you all what other factor you'll be working with, and then each group on your own is going to roll 1 item from our impact models and 1 from our revenue models, which I'll put back up in a second. But to kick us off, every group is going to be tackling privacy in this first round. Okay, so privacy is the theme for the new business, product, service initiative that you're going to start together. And then now to determine your other models, each group is going to have to roll 1 item from each of these lists. So you're looking for 1 impact model and 1 revenue model. Okay, so go ahead and start rolling. So just write those down for now, and I'll tell you guys the next steps once you have those.
So that was the impact incubator accelerator.
Did you roll it? Software as a service. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so did everybody roll their impact model and their revenue model? Everybody got their models? So what's going to be happening now is you're going to have 10 minutes to work as a group to think of a new business, product, service, or initiative that combines all three of these factors. So it combines privacy with the two models that you've rolled. And I'll be coming around to help you guys if you don't know what the model is that you landed on. I'll be there to help you out. You're only going to have 10 minutes for this first round, so the goal is to move fast, to not overthink it, to spit out the best ideas that you have and kind of go from there. The reason why we do 3 rounds is because it is random, and that means that you almost always hate one of your combinations of roles. That almost always happens. There's one that's frustrating. But out of 3, you're bound to have one that you're really excited about, okay? So just kind of go with the flow. So I'm going to start coming around. You're going to have 10 minutes, so I'll set an alarm, and that's when you guys will have to stop. The important thing is to just document your ideas somehow so that you can come back to it later, but there's no specific parameters around how you do that.
Matthew, the people on the live stream are asking one more time, what's the impact model and the revenue model?
So an impact model is a method for sustainably creating impact. So that can be personal impact, environmental impact, social impact. A revenue model is a method for sustainably making money or income.
And what's the one that you picked right now?
And this was the other factors. That's what I've written down here. Our other factors are just things that you might be interested in. So in this case, we have dogs, massage, nature, fitness, shoes, etc. It also can be something a little bit more meaningful, not just based on random interests. Today, that's what we're doing because it's really fun. But it can be your users, your features of your product, etc. Things that kind of make it real, make it your interest or your thing.
Right. And which ones did you pick from the list?
So every group actually picked their own.
Oh, I see.
They rolled.
Okay,
Yeah.
why don't you give us 2 for everybody that's live on the stream? So they have something to work with.
So 2 examples. So you're working with privacy, we know that. But I would say, why don't you think of sliding scale cost, which is a product that is available at various rates depending on somebody's income or location, etc. And then a revenue model of e-commerce, so it's available online. So that's the kind of ideas that we're looking for. Privacy, e-commerce, and sliding scale cost.
Okay, so they have something to work with.
Perfect.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Cool. So how did you go about? Yeah. What's the idea so far?
So go ahead, tell me what a
Yeah,
product
so
is.
it's an app that controls window coverings for people. So like they can, when they're from afar, if they want to close it 'cause they're not coming home or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the percentage of our inventory donated, we're donating it to shelters.
Nice.
And then sell it wholesale to Home Depots and Lowe's and places like that.
Nice.
Yeah, so for homeless shelters, we're going to donate like partitions so that they have privacy around their little beds.
Nice. Oh, that sounds cool. I would say, so try to think of a name for it.
Oh, okay.
You know, and just to kind of like keep pushing you guys.
Yeah.
Well, with privacy, you're going to be by yourself. You want to be alone.
But I'm also realizing that that was that e-commerce is supposed to be a revenue model.
Privacy.
We take a percentage of each startup. Oh, that's nice. Some of them ideas so far.
We thought of a really fast short-term Airbnb. So, you could, if you want some privacy, you could go online and whoever's close by, you could go.
Kind of like a Tinder app. You could get on your app and then you could be wherever you are, and
Yeah.
it'll tell you, okay, 5 minets from where you are is like a temporary privacy space.
Nice. Like a little getaway. Oh, I could use that. That sounds great. So think of a name for it. That can be kind of fun. Document it somehow so that you guys can revisit it later, and then we might come back to it. Yeah. Cool.
What's the name?
one more minute to wrap up and document your ideas somehow, right?
God, we're in there. We should raise some money.
Right? Totally. $1 million. Yeah.
I think maybe after you get to the premium level that we can donate, we often have a free disguise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, to get into
Like a mustache or something.
Like a mustache. Yeah. That's,
Round two.
Private and easy to set up. And I feel like maybe private is I like to play on private.
Okay, everybody. Pencils down. So we're moving on to round two. Everybody up here, we're moving to round two. Part of why I have you guys document where you're at in the process is you might be able to revisit it a bit later in different ways. So if you're excited about this idea, you might be able to revisit it later, not to give away too much. But we're going into round two. I mentioned that things get a little bit more complicated as each round happens, and that's definitely true. Round two is named round two because we roll 2 of everything now, okay? So as your dungeon master, and I feel like I've got to come up with a better name for that because that's been taken. I'm going to roll the 2 other factors that you're going to be working with. So let's see what we get. So we've got 7, which is elder care. Okay, so we're working with elder care. And we're working with 16, which is vacation. Okay, so your new product, business, service, initiative is dealing with elder care and vacation. And now we're going to have you, each group, roll 2 impact models and 2 revenue models. And you're going to have 10 minutes to think of another idea, completely different from round 1, that unites all 6 of those things. So elder care, vacation, 2 impact models, and 2 revenue models. Okay?
The life people.
So the live people, let's go ahead and roll for them. So you know you have elder care and you have vacation. Now your first impact model is going to be micro lending. So we're dealing with micro lending where you're giving small donations, small loans to various people. And then you're also dealing with give half. So you're giving half of whatever your product or your service is away for free to some sort of community that really needs it. Then your revenue model is going to be number 8, which is free sample. So think of Costco. And number 11, which is affiliate programs. It's kind of a marketing model where you have really fancy people with big followings share your stuff and they get a cut of the revenue. So it's like a partnership.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
businesses that we sell to.
Oh, okay. Use supplies.
That's the shoelace is a cross subsidy because it's subsidized. Yeah.
So it's you get part of the vacation.
That could be. So some good advice when you start having a lot of models that you're working with, sometimes what I've seen people do that's really helpful is you have a business that's kind of an umbrella and it has multiple products or services under it. So maybe your audience is the elderly that are going on vacation, right? But you also have these 4 other models to deal with.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is possible to get all those into one idea, but sometimes it's not. And it's okay if you have multiple, because a lot of companies, most of them do have multiple things they offer.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, so if you start with elder care vacation, why can we do that? creative around that to start with, to not be obvious, or maybe it is just obvious. Just old people who are sick go on vacation so they can feel better. Maybe we have a retreat, maybe a retreat center, maybe we have a spa somewhere, maybe we
Or
have.
is like the vacation, the travel part, and the first part.
That's an
So the people with disabilities take care of the elderly.
The product is elder care vacation. So what is the
and so one.
I'm just going to start talking.
Go ahead.
You can tell me what works and doesn't. So I have a person that I take care of who is elderly and
You know, there is a How long do they get now?
So they have another 7 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should stop the live stream.
It's up to you. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, people are doing it.
That's good. Company that sells online access to view your print and personally at public registry charges you based on the ability to view and print or eliminate some of the information you want. Nice. That's cool. Nice, Mark.
There, that or maybe the Make-A-Wish part is the employees that actually go on the trips. So they're engaged. They take the Make-A-Wish old people on the trips, and that's
They're
employee
paying to
engagement.
get some vacation on their own, but they're taking the elderly out as well, so they're giving back.
Yeah. So does employee engagement just mean like they're engaged in the impact of it? Is that what that means, or am I missing it?
I don't know if it's like increasing job satisfaction for them or what, or if it's just a way for them to volunteer. And give back.
Yeah.
We could ask them first.
Okay. So then the revenue, so pay what you want. So people,
Who are low income and can prove it can make a donation based on, it's like a sliding scale.
yeah. So you're right. So the products have a sliding scale. Pay what you want. And then what was our other one? Oh, cross subsidy. Oh, that's the hard one. You buy the product with other something
But
that's
the
free.
upsell is the where they make the
What
money.
could be free? Maybe we could have a deal with hotels so that when old people travel, they get their first night free. I don't know. I don't totally get this one for something that's not obvious, like that for a razor.
You guys have a question?
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out the cross subsidy part
Okay.
of this for.
Yeah, so what have you got so far?
We're just starting to discuss it, but the other part of it.
So our products are hospital grade things for old people when they travel. So whether it's their walker, but designed for travel. So whether it's
Okay.
oxygen tanks
Okay.
or walkers or whatever.
Okay.
But so they're like hospital grade products, but they're really cool for traveling. Like we're
Okay.
picking
Yeah.
them up for travel.
Yeah.
So that's our product.
Okay.
Our impact model, product and service, is that when people buy our products, we're actually going to donate. We're going to have Make-A-Wish for old people.
Cool,
So
cool.
yeah, so
Yeah.
people who can't afford, people who are stuck in homes or are dying or
Yeah.
have shitty kids and family, and they want to go somewhere.
Nice, Delilah.
So
Yeah.
we'll,
Yeah.
so some kids are assholes. Let's be honest. And so we're giving like Make-A-Wish for old
Yeah, okay.
dying people.
So
the cross subsidy we're stuck on.
So when I think of the cross subsidy in this instance, when you say the oxygen tank, so what does an oxygen tank need?
Oxygen.
Right? Oxygen. So what if the tank is cheap but the oxygen is pricey?
Okay.
Maybe that. So maybe your product is almost free.
Right.
But to get it refilled regularly,
Right,
there's a
that's where it
subscription.
costs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like
Yeah.
Square Reader.
Yeah.
you get, it's like a little device you
Right,
can swipe
right.
your card. So you get those actually for free because they take a percentage of all
every
your
time you
sales.
use it, right.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
that's really cool.
giving it to you
Okay.
for free is worth it. So that's what comes to mind. I don't know about with the walker. Maybe the tennis balls are
Right, exactly. Yeah.
are something.
The chair to sit down behind you.
Yeah, something
yeah,
like that.
Something, yeah.
But that's what comes to mind.
Okay, that's really
Great,
cool.
no, it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we forget.
A few times. You can tell.
So we need a name for our company. Old people travel in style.
Never too old.
We're having a lot of partners, affiliates,
About 1 more minute, so make sure you're documenting your idea.
in their blogs and that kind of stuff, and they get percentage. And again, you buy one, you get one. Okay, one, but the 1 plus 1 in the impact, we still haven't fixed that.
And then the revenue is yeah.
So I think the revenue model is wrong.
I think there could be some money also, because if you go on vacation and you're not coming,
If you hire one, you invite another. But here, if you buy one, you get it on free. So that's in the revenue. Yeah.
they could pay for their certification. And maybe some people, I think,
I hate to say this, but I believe this is totally doable. And you're crazy. And it's just gonna next 10 years if they got a future.
So, I mean, because it's open source, we're not going to try to control this. The benefits of, so let's be really clear.
Yeah.
You're cutting aging in half because the years are longer and therefore the aging is slower.
Exactly.
Yeah, so cutting age, slowing the aging process, increasing mobility through loss of gravity.
Okay, go ahead.
We're increasing mobility through loss of gravity. And you get zero weight with no gravity.
Through gravity.
Loss of gravity. Weight.
Now what's happening is, in the seat that she is, she's in a
Okay, everybody.
but she'll talk about, oh, yes, I just got that from her.
It's time for round 3. Anybody guess what happens in round 3? 3, yeah. So this is the last round. We have gone up to 5 rounds before, but I won't put you guys through that. Okay, round 3. So in round 3, as you might guess, we do 3 from each list. So this is the final round of inventing, so it doesn't get harder than this, don't worry. So I'm going to start, like usual, by rolling our 3 other factors that I've listed on my phone. So we've got number 20, which is global warming. So that's just a small problem for you all to tackle. Global warming. We have got, I think it's a 9, so we have cats. Yeah, so we have global warming and cats. And then we have 17, which is gardening. Okay, so global warming, gardening, I kind of see it, right? Nature, at least. Cats, good luck with that. Hopefully you guys can think of a way to connect cats to global warming. I mean, animals are impacted by global warming, right? So now what you're going to be doing, you're going to be rolling 3 impact models and 3 revenue models. And a bit of advice that I want to give now that we're dealing with nine factors, this obviously starts to get kind of insane, right? So you're dealing with combining 9 things. And one bit of advice that I have, and I was telling this group over here, that when you start having a lot of things that you're playing with, keep in mind that a lot of businesses have multiple products, multiple services. You don't have to funnel all of these models into one single product or service. Maybe your business has multiple offerings, and you split the models up that way. That's a strategy that I've seen that works pretty well. But you do have to keep global warming, gardening, and cats connected. Okay? So you've got 15 minutes for this one because it's a little bit more complicated, and then we're going to go into the next phase of the workshop. Everybody good? So roll your 3 impact models and 3 revenue models.
We're doing for the online people.
Yeah, let's roll them. Okay, so.
Roll the same number 3 times.
What's that?
Should we roll again? Number 3 times.
You rolled the same one 3 times? That's incredible. I normally say that just means you were meant to have that model, but I think I think you should re-roll. Yeah. That 4 again? Really?
Yes.
And that was for the impact model?
Yes.
Okay.
4 and 18.
Whoa.
3 times for each one.
That's
okay,
incredible.
somebody else do it.
I kind of want to take you to Vegas or something. Oh my God. Okay. So. Okay, so let's roll for the people at home. This one's my favorite. It's like a really cool blue color. Okay. So our impact models are 1 for 1. So 1 for 1, that's like Tom's shoe.
No, I'm done.
Number 6, which is recycle, upcycle. Okay, recycle, upcycle. And number 17, which is co-working. So like a co-working space, building community, etc. So you guys have 1 for 1, recycle, and co-working. And then for your revenue models, we have number 2, which is in-app purchases. So kind of like an upsell. You have 10, which is business to business. So your main customer has to be another business. And then number 8, which is free samples. So you have to provide a free sample of some sort. So in-app purchase, B2B, and free sample.
And I could roll the same thing.
So, cats can go poop and use that for the gardening. And that helps with global warming because it's recycling.
This shoe was free. The shoelaces are and the shoelace is the cross-section because it's made for Yeah.
So the connection between cats, gardening, and global warming, because I see it every day around my house. This trilogy, exactly. Because what's happened over the last several years is that the rat population has increased. And the reason for why is because the natural population of pretty much everything is gone. It's everything from butterflies to birds to squirrels.
Natural predators.
Natural predators are gone. So that's the connection right there, right? The other problem is that we've got too many cat lovers. They're feeding the cats that should be catching the rats. So we've got a bunch of fat cats that are sleeping inside. Either if they're feral cats, they get fed outside, and otherwise they're at home, they're sleeping, and they're being fed canned food, which is making them completely obese. But that's a completely different thing. But they're not catching the rats. So that's the connection. Because of global warming, we've got more rats. And it's drying up all of our gardens, and it's drying up all the food for all of the animals that ordinarily would be helping us out with this issue. The rats are taking over, and the cats aren't catching the rats.
I just don't know the actual connection to the rats. Are they actually more rats because of global? I mean, I know there's more
Yeah,
food.
well, there are
food
more
waste.
rats because the natural predators are gone.
Oh, specifically
And
with the predators.
The natural,
Okay.
more than just the natural predators. It's also because rats are really smart and they can figure out how to adapt to different environments.
That's not
So
right.
even when there's a lack of water and there's a lack of food, they'll find different food supplies. So they take over, they can take over and populate when other animals are struggling.
Can we also include the raccoons and the possums and the mice?
We can, but they're not as prevalent.
Okay.
Yeah, but
There are some neighborhoods
Yeah.
that we live in Westwood.
Yeah.
One year.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But that's the issue between those three. That the cats aren't doing the job that they technically are supposed to be doing, and the gardens are drying up, so fewer animals are able to survive on what's actually there, and it's all because of global warming.
okay, so
So
This.
we have
About this.
yeah, now we need to
So
figure out
basically
the
they eat too much.
They get fed too much. Yeah, they eat too much in people's houses, and if they were a little bit hungrier, they'd be catching more rats.
so how do we include? So we have quite a few things incorporated into this. So
So let's see. So then we got
is that recycling number 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Upcycle. Oh, recycle, upcycle.
Upcycle, I think, is when you take something and you create something
Repurpose
better.
it.
You repurpose
Yeah,
it for
it's
something
very
better.
simple.
So how do we repurpose rat?
That's recycle and upcycle. Yeah.
So is by the cat eating the rat, they're repurposing the rat to become a bigger cat or more cats?
Well, actually, this is good. This is good because they're upcycling, and
It's called a food chain.
it's the food chain, exactly. So let's see for the question. So we got what's the first one? Sharing.
But if you want to go to give half, I mean, we can just give half of one rat to one cat, half of one rat to another cat. They can share.
They can share it. They can split it. Although I think there are more rats than cats.
Okay.
Are you splitting rats?
We're splitting rats. Yeah. And actually, rats will eat each other too. So.
Cat's garden.
Cross subsidy. That's
And we have to license it as well? No.
So maybe we should create like a packaging.
Packaging. Guys, we have a lot of things to do. Packaging, licensing. How do we... Can we do open source licensing? Creative Commons licensing so we don't actually have to control that? That would make it a lot easier.
That would make it a lot easier.
So it's a Creative Commons license.
Create a what?
Creative Commons means like copy left
Creative
instead of copyright. So it's wholly open source. But that is a form of license.
It's like Google Beta.
Google Beta.
Google Beta everything.
Yeah. So, and what is this? This is
Gross.
cross subsidy. Oh yeah. So, well,
The food for the cats.
Which is what he was explaining, right?
right in the Gillette model.
More
But how
expensive
does it?
than the rat killing the cat.
So where does the money come from in this? Are we talking about rat revenue, or are we talking about actual some kind of cash flow here?
We need some kind of cash flow. Right? So,
Yes, we do.
what is it that we're?
But we are in a
We need a
sharing.
license in order to make money.
And we understand impact. I think we just figure out how does this work. Okay,
We
so
need to figure out.
I got it.
Great to see everybody on that feed.
Somebody has a question.
Oh, yeah. For people who want to promote the use of time banks, how would you list that in the revenue? Just add time banks. Oh, I see.
Oh, that would be an additional one.
So that would be an additional model, but I would actually list that in your other factors if you were playing this at home. You know, like we had come up with a list of 20 other things that interest us in general. And a time bank, for example, could be one of those other factors. That is a good example, though, of another form of an impact model that we might have in our glossary, too. So I'm actually about to post a link for you all to download that. There it is. So that should show up on the live feed.
give half, so give one, get one.
There you go.
Right?
Awesome. It's called collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah, like Tom shoes.
But yeah, you give half the community can't afford the
The main hub of Catville,
volume.
which should be the name of this.
Half of the value goes.
They are
Okay, just about 2 more minutes in this final round.
Are you guys done?
we're done. Oh, we don't have a name for this one. Oh.
You girls are really fast.
Yes.
Well, but I mean, there's food too in a camp.
Yeah. But you're not going to necessarily pay a membership to get a certain amount of food, or if you don't go there all the time. Like, that's a lot.
You guys be okay with just another 1 or 2 more minutes? Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, so we're talking about
The box, and it might vary a little bit.
Somebody's gonna
Matthew, we have one more question.
Yeah. What do we got?
What is freemium?
Okay, so freemium is it's when you have one tier of your product that's free and then another tier that's paid. So a good example is LinkedIn. You can join LinkedIn for free, but for a premium, you can pay and have I think they call it premium account.
I think so, yeah.
So you have more features, for example. So basically, you're always allowing your product to be free and accessible to somebody, but they could pay and get even more stuff,
Cool.
which makes it even more awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And adoption center. And educational.
It would be awesome if people were explaining their thought process when they talk about the business model. Something it's hard to follow.
Yeah.
They don't know how they came up with the idea.
Yeah.
It's an
Well,
idea.
at the end we'll have them pitch. So maybe we'll give that as a prompt. Is what was your thought process in doing it? Yeah.
I think it's helpful for other people to learn.
Totally. All right, everybody, we're moving on. So hopefully you've solved global warming with cats by now. We're going to move into the program phase. So we just finished 3 rounds of the invent phase. You guys over here? On to the next phase. You guys ready? Okay. So here we go. Yeah, clap once if you can hear me. Okay. That's the thing. When you're doing this with little kids, you can just raise your hand, and they all of a sudden all raise their hand. It's creepy almost, but it works. So with programs, so go ahead and direct your attention up here. This is kind of where we start to go from blue sky back down to planet Earth a little bit. So you guys have come up with 3 different business ideas at this point. What's cool is just over the course of maybe about an hour, this room has generated 12 new potential businesses, right? So that's super fun. And some of them might have been kind of out there. Some of them you maybe were more excited about than others, etc. And so what we do in the program phase is we run these ideas, one of these ideas, through a series of 13 questions that we've developed that, if answered, you actually have a rough draft of a business plan. So this is really bare bones business planning. Some of you may have seen the business model canvas. We created our own version of that to simplify it even more and make it a little bit more relevant for social impact, social entrepreneurs, etc. So it's comprised of 6 sections, and I'm going to walk you through what each section is about. And the last slide will have the canvas again, so don't worry if you didn't get the perfect picture. The very first section is the impact model. So, and again, don't worry about writing these down because the last slide will have them all. This is really asking the question, how does social or environmental or personal, remember impact can mean a lot of things, just how does that fit in your company? What is this impact model? You rolled one of those, but what really is it? And how do you actually measure that impact? The value proposition. What makes your organization and offer unique? How are you really making impact? A lot of the times people ask me what I mean by that. And for example, sometimes when you say, oh, the impact I want to make is to teach every kid in LA algebra. But when you're facing this question of how are you really making impact, that's when you're kind of answering the question, well, so what? What'll happen if all those kids learn algebra, right? Will that create more jobs for people? Right? What will it do? Kind of that big level impact that it'll create. Partners, who do you work with to make this impact? Who won't you work with? Who are your clients, your funders, your networks? That can really vary depending on the type of business that you have. Products and services. What are you creating? How can you ensure your offer aligns with your impact model and actually solves that problem? So this is actually the series of questions that you've been primarily focusing on over this past hour. Just what is this thing, right? What does it do? What kind of problem does it solve? The talent and operational model, this is where you get a little bit more traditional. So who would you actually need on your team, basically, right? How do you find them is what I mean by how do you engage them. You can even draw an org chart in this phase and show what it would cost to actually do this. In these kind of rapid prototyping, we don't tend to get that detailed, but if you end up finding time, then that's great. And then the final one, you had rolled revenue models, right? So you kind of know what those are, but explaining how is that work funded and how can it be creatively financed. What I mean by that is you rolled multiple models, so maybe there isn't just one. Maybe there's multiple angles to this to get a little bit creative about it. So this is the slide I promised that has all of those questions on one page. And what I want you guys to do, and I'm going to give you actually a full 30 minutes with your group to go through this. You're going to pick just one of these three that you've invented. So you guys have to come to some kind of consensus about which idea you want to move forward with. The criteria you use to pick that is totally up to you, but it could be that it just feels feasible. It could be that it feels crazy, and that's exciting. It could be that it feels just kind of exciting to you in general. So totally up to you. Your group is going to work together to answer all of these questions about one of those ideas. And this is all ultimately leading to the final part of today where you're actually going to pitch this idea to all of us. Okay, so the nice thing about this, I mentioned that answering these questions gives you really a base, kind of bare bones business plan that you need. So this is a good template for anything that you do. But it also really helps you kind of clarify what that story is, the narrative of why it's valuable, who it's for, how it works, those kinds of things. So this should result in a pretty decent pitch for you all as well. So I'll give a little more info about the format of the actual presentation and the pitch once we get closer to that. But for now, you've got about 30 minutes to think through these questions and take your time. 30 minutes, it sounds kind of like a lot, but it actually is pretty quick when you're going through all of these. A lot of times we recommend a couple hours for your business to really be reflecting on these questions. Does that sound good? Anybody have any questions on any of these? Yeah. Oh, no, it sounds good? Okay, great. Cool. Then go for it. Thanks. 30 minutes.
So maybe now I do disconnect from the live stream, and then I'll just connect again in 30 minutes. So right now it's 7:50.
So at 8:20.
So we'll be back at 8:20.
For the pitches. Okay,
sounds good. I'm just going to zoom in here so you guys can read this for a moment. Can you see it now, Lori? Let me know.
I didn't like number 2.
Maybe you take a screenshot on your computer. Something like this really quick. Yeah, I would just take a screenshot.
You guys know which round you're looking for?
On a Mac, just do Shift Command 4.
Yeah.
And we can take a screenshot. And there's the other section.
We're going to take 30 minutes to figure that part out. Yeah. Then we're going to attack that.
time over here.
It's just so far out there.
Shift Command 4. Screenshot. Okay, we're going to disconnect the live stream and we'll be back at 8:20 p.m. Bye.
A great name for the first one.
I have been, this is my third meeting today.